Hi guys, it's Dave at Cuesta College today. We're going to do our final review. This will be your final exam, or exam number 3. So please do all this in your own words. Make sure on the study guide that you type out the questions and the answers for me. And make sure you do your vocabulary, and I'll talk about the essay at the end. So on your study guide, the first 5 questions are going to be on your own. I'd like you to answer those. Those are from the book. Where it says additional hints, let's go ahead and start on this. No why soils in tropical rainforest areas are not ideally suited for intensive agricultural use. Okay, well, the nutrients for the soil happen to come from the vegetation above. So the leaves rain down onto the forest floor, forest litter or plant litter, and the soil microorganisms in tropical areas in particular are very effective at breaking down that vegetation and releasing nutrients into the topsoil. And in rainforest, the vegetation generally has very shallow root systems, and so those nutrients are absorbed by the roots, and then they go into making more leaves and branches up above. So if you cut down the forest, there's no more nutrients raining down to the forest floor. So the soils are not going to do very well, particularly if you plant crops. That's going to take nutrients out. If the rainforest is gone, the canopy above, that's where the tree crowns all grow together into a multi-layered canopy. The rainfall can just beat down on the soils, cause soil erosion, and cause something called leaching, which is when nutrients are taken down to lower depths in the soil, but they can't be readily utilized by any crops that are grown. So you might get 2, 3, 4 years, and then you'd have to move on and slash and burn some more, or apply some sort of fertilizer. And in some areas, there's not the money to do that. Many people can't afford to do that. Okay, know what factors intensify the concentration of air pollution. You want to write down wind and how stable is the air. Generally, wind will mix up the air and mix up the pollutants. Also, you want the air to be unstable, not stable. Unstable means there's storms coming through. That'll clean out the air and mix up the air also. So in areas where it's dead still, right, maybe under high pressure like the San Joaquin Valley throughout most of the summer, or the LA Basin, that's when air pollution can really build up. Know the most critical issue regarding the disposal of high-level radioactive nuclear waste in the U.S. That would be storage. What do we do with this stuff? Most nuclear power plants that are still functioning today store the high-level nuclear waste on site, like Diablo does, I believe. They've talked about storing this stuff in Nevada. I've heard a plan for New Mexico years ago. Nobody really wants this stuff because this stays radioactive for a long, long time. And the other major issue is safety. If you're going to bury this stuff somewhere, you got to be sure you bury it well. And so these canisters they might put it in do not leak into the groundwater. What sector of the economy uses the largest percentage of fresh water on a global basis? You want to write down that's agriculture. By far. What country is the largest producer of petroleum in the Middle East? You want to write down that is Saudi Arabia. Understand some consequences of global warming. I will just do a few. Sea level possibly rising. As the ice melts globally, particularly in Antarctica and Greenland, sea level apparently is already going up. Increased fire risk. As we warm up and as snowpacks melt earlier, I think we've been seeing this in California already for sure the last couple of years. Food supply. If climate belts shift, agricultural belts could shift, which could disrupt food supply in some parts of the world. Plant and animal extinctions are a possibility, right? As it warms up. More weather extremes, maybe more intense rainfall, more intense droughts, more intense hurricanes are a possibility. I saw a couple studies that seem to indicate that inland California, away from the ocean, could see many more days that are going to be a little toasty, 95 degrees plus in places like Bakersfield and Fresno, maybe even Paso. I saw another study that suggested that LA's climate in the future could end up more like Cabo San Lucas. San Francisco would be more like LA's, which I think might be kind of nice in Morro Bay where I live. Let's warm it up a little bit, warm that water up. But anyways, those are some of the things that have been talked about. What are some of the adverse impacts of acid precipitation? Acid precipitation is rain or snow with a pH value less than 5.6. The pH scale goes 1 to 14. Below 7 is more acidic. So natural precipitation is a bit acidic. When it becomes more acidic than normal, though, lakes can suffer, as well as the fish in the lakes, and some species of trees can suffer. We had a problem with this in parts of Europe, as well as the northeast United States and eastern Canada. We've taken some steps, some positive steps to help alleviate some of these problems in terms of controlling the pollutants that lead to this problem. What gases contribute to global warming? Carbon dioxide is one, CO2, CO, carbon monoxide, some of the oxides of nitrogen, maybe NO, NO2, CH4. Ozone has a pollutant near the surface, and the lower layer of the atmosphere can trap heat. We want ozone up above in the stratosphere, where it helps protect us from ultraviolet radiation. Know what the removal of nutrients from the upper soil by gravitational water is called. That is called leaching. I think we talked about that before. That's when water beats down on soils and takes the nutrients down to deeper depths. The relationship between soil formation and erosion rates. In the United States, we're having more erosion of soil than formation. It takes a long, long time to form soils. What are some of the problems associated with the use of fossil fuels? Air quality issues in places like the San Joaquin Valley, the LA Basin, Mexico City, potential global warming with the usage of fossil fuels, and maybe involvement in conflicts in the Middle East you could write down. Okay, in the past for sure. Understand the theory of global warming. Okay, global warming, my definition is that it's an unnatural warming of the atmosphere, primarily as a result of the burning of fossil fuels and slash and burn deforestation. These activities release CO2 and other gases into the atmosphere that can trap heat. The concentration of these gases has definitely been going up over the years, and so common sense would say if those gases trap heat and the concentration is going up, temperatures should go up also. What are the relationships of farming practices and soil fertility? Things you can do to maintain soil fertility is crop rotation, growing different crops each year that might increase the fertility of the soil. Intercropping, different rows of different crops. Fallowing in some areas where you might leave part of your fields unplanted to let the soils regenerate. So those are some things that could be used. The theory of stratospheric ozone depletion. Ozone depletion is the idea that, let me try to do this simply. Most of the ozone in the atmosphere, like 90% of it's in the stratosphere. That's the next layer up from where we live. So that's where we want the ozone for sure. Now, even though most of it's in the stratosphere, it makes up a minute portion of the stratosphere's total volume. It's a very, very small percentage, but it's really important because it absorbs ultraviolet light. Long-term exposure to ultraviolet light, especially for white boys like me who love the beach, can lead to problems. It can lead to, obviously, skin cancer, possibly cataracts. That's a clouding of the lens in your eyes. It may damage the immune system, particularly in your skin. Some plants, I guess, are sensitive to excess ultraviolet light, as well as the plankton in the ocean, which is the base of the marine food chain. So the big dodger in the sky, Mother Nature had it all set up. So there's a natural formation of ozone and a natural depletion going on. Now, back in the late 1920s, evil San Francisco Giant fans, I guess then they were New York Giant fans, started using certain chemicals, these CFCs, and we used these things for refrigerants, propellants, and spray cans a long time ago, the production of foam products. But these CFCs led to a gradual depletion of the ozone layer. Halons, too, are another group of compounds primarily used for fire suppression. They have evidently disrupted the ozone layer. But there's been some good news, right? We had an agreement reached back in the 1990s called the Montreal Protocol, and it looks like we've kind of stabilized this, and through time maybe we can get back to at least 1980 levels, right? The amount of ozone that we had. It's not going to help me out a lot because this probably won't happen until the year 2050, and I'll be one old fart by then, right? But anyways, you can write some of that good stuff down for me. Where are we on here? Know the issues related to global water supply. Location, right? Like Northern California has more water than Southern California. The distribution, how do we get water from places where it rains a lot to places where it doesn't rain a lot? Pollution would be an issue also in many, many parts of the world. What are sources of water for Los Angeles? That would be the Los Angeles Aqueduct, which brings water from the Owens Valley. The Colorado River, they get water there. Groundwater. The Imperial Valley also is a source of water for the LA Basin, along with the California Aqueduct. Know where the majority of the world's known oil reserves are located. Saudi Arabia, right? Venezuela, Canada, Iran, Iraq. We have a lot of resources here still in the United States. Russia's got a lot of oil reserves also. What is terraced agriculture? That's in hilly areas where you cut in flat indentations. I saw this in the Andes, I saw this in Japan. In Japan, they cut these flat indentations and they grew a lot of rice. They would flood irrigate. So I'm turning it over for you. That's probably the next page. Understand acid precipitation. Again, we've talked about this. This is rain or snow with a pH value less than 5.6, which makes it more acidic than normal. The Green Revolution refers to an increase in technology in the agricultural sector. This happened in the 1950s and 60s. Pesticides, herbicides, new strains of crops, mechanization, and this helped alleviate hunger in many, many parts of the world, particularly important probably, I would say, in China as well as India. What are many medicinal products derived from? Okay. In class, what I talk about is some of the problems associated with tropical rainforest deforestation. And one of the problems is loss of medicinal products. Many of our medicines come from plants. They're plant-based. Where is the majority of California's water consumed? That's in the southern half of the state. We talked about that. Most of the snowfalls, or more of the snowfalls, in the northern part of our state. Where does Los Angeles get the majority of its water? It's the Owens Valley. And you guys did a paper on that, so you already understand that. What are renewable resources? These are resources not depleted if they're wisely used. Like renewable resources, forests are not right now because we're depleting them too quickly. Oil is we're not using it at a renewable rate, correct? An acre foot of water is 326,000 gallons. It covers an acre with a foot of water. It's enough for maybe 2 average families for a year. Okay, the essay question. I'd like you to give me 3 references other than this review right here. You can use your book if you'd like to as one of your references. So what measures could be taken to control air pollution? So San Joaquin Valley, LA Basin, again, we're really blessed here in the Central Coast. We don't have an air pollution problem to speak of. So what are the major sources of air pollution like in the U.S.? You want to write down that's carbon monoxide, comes primarily from automobiles and the burning of coal. The oxides of sulfur, again, the burning of coal-fired power plants in some parts of our country. The oxides of nitrogen, that comes from automobile emissions and from industry also. Hydrocarbons are another source of air pollution. When you're pumping your gas and if they don't have those plastic sleeves on it, the fumes that come out, those would be hydrocarbons. You don't want to breathe that stuff too much. Ozone near the surface. Ozone forms near the surface as a result of photochemical reactions. Particulate matter, particularly like the San Joaquin Valley, with all the dust and mess over there. Okay, so those are the major sources of air pollution in the U.S. Part 2 is what measures could be taken to control air pollution. A lot of things could be done. Greater fuel efficiency on our cars. I think we'll start moving back in that direction now. Former President Trump in California, tried to weaken our standards here, but I assume that'll change back and we'll try to get more efficient cars going. Low emission cars, great idea, hybrids, electric cars. This is one I don't like, but it does work. Reduce the speed limit. Watch your tachometer. Depends on your gear ratios, but in many cars, when you zip it up from 55 to 75, watch what your tachometer does, and that's going to be your fuel efficiency too. Switch to renewables. I think that's a great idea. More solar panels on the houses. More solar plants out in the desert. We've got to figure out how to store that energy also when it's dark at night. But renewables, wind. I heard there's some plan maybe to put the wind machines off the coast of Morro Bay, way out there, I guess, so we'll be able to see them. I don't know how that's moving along. People have talked about being able to burn coal cleaner. I don't know how far we are on that technology yet. Nuclear power, it doesn't create the kind of pollutants that we think about with air pollution, but there's a lot of cons associated with nuclear power too, pros and cons with that, which we don't need to go into on this essay. So I hope this helps you. These reviews, do a good job on this. Let's all get good grades. If you turn everything in, your grade's going to be good in my online class for sure. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.